Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. You'll get 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, enjoy access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with the welcome offer of 150,000 points, your business can soar to all new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
I think I just won my taxes.
Yeah?
I just switched to H&R Block in about 1 minute. All I had to do was drag and drop last year's return into H&R Block, and bam, my information is automatically there.
So I don't have to go digging around for all my old papers to switch?
Nope.
Sounds like we just leveled up our tax game.
Switching to H&R Block is easy. Just drag and drop your last return. It's better with Block.
This is the FPL Draft Zone, your fantasy team's best signing of the season.
Bournemouth are amazing. So is it worth trading for Utara? City win again. Are they back to their best? And we talk transfers, signings that have already been made and ones to come. Hello and welcome to the FPL Draft Zone, a podcast all about Draft FPL. I am Dom Crofts. I hope you are well. And today we have got a busy one for you, with a look back at Gameweek 23, a look ahead to Gameweek 24, transfer talk, and of course those waiver picks all on the menu. Hopefully this weekend's results worked out well for you and your draft team, and the first fixtures on Saturday all took place this week at 3 p.m. GMT with 5 games. Bournemouth absolutely annihilated Nottingham Forest at the Vitality, with Dango Utara scoring a hat-trick for the hosts. Semenyo and Cliver were also on target for the Cherries. Marcus Tavernier walked away with 2 assists in his first appearance since Game Week 15. Not bad for a 10-minute cameo. Brighton lost 1-0 at home to Everton, with Ndiaye getting the only goal of the game from the penalty spot. Everton have now won 2 of their first 3 games under new manager/old manager David Moyes, and Liverpool cruised past Ipswich Town at Anfield 4-1, with Cody Gakpo outshining Mo Salah. Gakpo finished with 2 goals, an assist and maximum bonus points. Salah and Szoboszlai were also on target for the league leaders, and Newcastle bounced back from that home defeat to Bournemouth with a win against another team from the South Coast, Southampton. They actually went a goal down in this one, but Alexander Isak does what Alexander Isak does. He scored another 2 goals. He's got 17 for the season now, and he has 13 goals in his last 10 games. Arsenal edged past Wolves despite one of the most ridiculous red cards you will ever see. More on that later, but it was Miles Lewis-Skelly who was dismissed for a tactical foul. In the end, though, the Gunners showed great mental strength to get the win, with Ricardo Calafiori getting the only goal of the game after coming on at half-time. And then in the late kick-off, Manchester City made it 4 wins in their last 5 league games. They're unbeaten in their last 6. Erling Haaland scored again to make it 5 goals in his last 4 league appearances, and he now has 18 for the campaign. On Sunday, Brentford ended Crystal Palace's good run with a win at Selhurst Park. Bryan Mbeumo scored again. Esse scored on his debut for Palace. Kevin Schade was also on target for the Bees. Spurs, well, they are in a shocking moment right now, and they were beaten at home by relegation-threatened Leicester City. Richarlison put the home side in front, but Jamie Vardy and El Canouse turned the tie in favour of the Foxes. West Ham looked good in their draw at Aston Villa as Graham Potter starts to implement his style of play on the Hammers. This one finished 1-1. Jacob Ramsey scored early on for Villa. Emerson equalised for West Ham. The Hammers also had a very late goal disallowed. And then in the last game of the weekend, Manchester United beat Fulham 1-0 at Craven Cottage, a deflected Lisandro Martinez goal, earning Ruben Amorim's side an important 3 points. So that is what happened in Game Week 23, and now it's time to big up a few of the standout performers from the weekend and flag a few epic failures. It's time for winners and losers.
The FPL Draft Zone. Winners and losers.
And as usual, first up are the winners, and Alexander Isak's form is on another level right now. 2 more goals for him this weekend, helping to earn Newcastle another 3 points as they chase a Champions League place. The Swedish striker has now got 22 returns so far this season in the league in just 21 games, and that's despite just 1 goal and 1 assist in his first 8 appearances. Newcastle have got a tough run of fixtures coming up. They are not easy games they're going to be confronted with over the next few weeks. But if you are an Isak owner, do not worry too much, because he has already scored this season against Arsenal, against Liverpool, against Chelsea, Spurs, Aston Villa and Manchester United. He hasn't scored against Manchester City because he didn't play the last time those 2 sides met. He can do the business against anyone, and he probably will. Cody Gakpo is another winner this week after he earned Draft Manager's a lovely 16-pointer against Ipswich Town. It was a fairly underwhelming first couple of seasons for the Dutchman, but he has really stepped up this season. He's starting more regularly, and he has already matched his best ever tally of 8 goals for the club. And Brian Mbeumo continues to impress with Brentford. I actually missed out on him on draft night by 1 pick, and that led me to go for Marcus Rashford as the next best option. That has turned out well, hasn't it? But for Mbeumo owners, it has been a dream season. He's got 147 points so far. He's 3 points away from his best ever points total, so he's well on course to smash that. He's got 14 goals and 3 assists as well. Ivan Toney? Don't remember who he is, mate. Totally forgotten. As for losers, there's only one this week, and it is Michael Oliver, who stole the headlines again with an abysmal decision in the Arsenal-Wolves game. He sent off Miles Lewis-Skelly for what was a cynical foul on the edge of Wolves' own box. It's a foul we have seen thousands of times before, and every single time it's been a yellow card. But not this time. Oh no. Rodri won a Ballon d'Or for making those sort of fouls on a weekly basis, and yet Michael Oliver, who has got previous with Arsenal, deemed it a foul worthy of a red card, despite it happening nearly 90 yards from Arsenal's goal. And some pretty astonishing facts for you when you actually look into the relationship between Michael Oliver and Arsenal. Since the 2015-2016 season, Oliver has refereed 12% of Arsenal's Premier League games, and yet in that time he has been responsible for 23% of all Arsenal's red cards. So that's nearly a quarter of sendings off that Arsenal have been given since 2015, and he has been responsible for a quarter of those sendings off. This is also the same referee who sent off Gabriel Martinelli for 2 yellow cards in the same phase of play a few seasons ago. Another decision you have never seen before and will never see again. And I know it's very easy to scream conspiracy theory, but the facts seem to speak for themselves. Arsenal have been hit time and time and time again this season with some very questionable red cards that have never been seen again, and Declan Rice's red card against Brighton is just one other case in point. Oliver's record of sending off Arsenal players extends way beyond this season as well, and while some, I'm sure, were justified, a lot of those decisions were not, and it just makes you think that there is something more to it than bad luck. Obviously, Arteta had his fallout with PGMOL after that goal that Newcastle scored last season when the ball appeared to have crossed the line. The big question from this weekend, though, how did VAR not overturn that decision after Oliver gave it? There's 2 officials in that room, and they just let that decision slide. It makes absolutely no sense. It is completely unacceptable. And if VAR is not there to right those sort of wrongs, then what is the point of it? And this, of course, is coming hot on the heels of the David Coote controversy, where he's there slagging off Jurgen Klopp on camera. It is quite clear to me that the PGMOL is not fit for purpose. It needs a massive overhaul. We need better referees from all over Europe and beyond. We need an independent VAR set up so it is not mates of refs making checks on key decisions and just letting them pass. And we need to get back to basics, because these sort of things are ruining football. On the plus side, I drafted in Ricardo Calafiori this week, so yeah, go me. Right, it's time for Fantasy Hero of the Week.
Hero of the Week.
And for the second week running, it is a Bournemouth hat-trick scorer who is our hero of the week, and his name is Dango Ouattara. He hit a treble in the 5-0 win over Nottingham Forest. He is a midfielder playing out of position. He was a bit part player for most of this campaign before injuries to Evan Nielsen and Enes Unal forced Andoni Iraola to start him more regularly. He now has 6 goals and 4 assists for the season. He started 7 of the last 8 games. He's got 6 returns in his last 7 matches. He's got 8 returns in his last 9 matches. However, this hat-trick came from an XG of just 0.95. So he did vastly over-deliver in this one. And as good as Bournemouth look, and as tempting as it might be to try to trade for Ouattara now, given the way he's adapted so well to this new role, do not give up too much for him just yet, because there is still a week left of this transfer window. And if Bournemouth bring in a forward, his minutes will quickly reduce. However, if they do not bring anyone in, he looks like he could be a hugely valuable signing this season and well worth the trade, given Bournemouth's fixtures, which after Liverpool are a sea of green until game week 35. Dango Ouattara, congratulations, you are this week's Fantasy Hero of the Week!
Hero of the Week.
So game week 24 is next up for draft managers, and there are some very tasty fixtures to look forward to in this one. We will go through them all in a minute, but the first thing to flag is that it is a double game week this week for both Liverpool and Everton. They play the final ever Merseyside derby at Goodison Park on Wednesday the 12th of February, which is a long time after the other Game Week 24 fixtures take place. The rest of them are played over the weekend of the 1st of February, but because of Liverpool's Carabao Cup and FA Cup commitments, that Merseyside derby takes a back seat for 10 days or so. So it is an epically long Game Week 24 in terms of the number of days it is played over. So that's something to keep in mind as you make those key waiver decisions. And let's get to it. It's time for this.
The FPL Draft Zone. Waiver Wants.
So as usual, we're going to take a look at all the fixtures and suggest a few players who can make very decent signings for you this week. They will of course be players likely to be available in your waivers rather than a Mo Salah or an Erling Haaland, who quite clearly will not be. And we're also going to highlight a few other possible new signings that could be coming in through the door between now and transfer deadline day. Some of those potential players may well be available on the waivers already this week, but if not, they are worth keeping on your radar for Game Week 25. So let's take you through all the games in fixture order, and this week's Premier League opener takes place at 12:30pm GMT when Nottingham Forest take on Brighton at the City Ground. Both these sides will be looking to bounce back after defeats in Game Week 23. It finished 2-2 at the Amex earlier in the season. Prior to that, Brighton had beaten Forest on the previous 2 occasions. For the home side, Callum Hudson-Odoi is still expected to be absent through injury, so Jota Silva remains a decent option, particularly against the Brighton side, who do give up pretty decent chances to their opponents. You would fancy Lewis Dunk to compete with Chris Wood in the battle of the big men, but an Elanga or a Jota may well get you a bit of joy on the flanks, especially when you consider Pervis Estupinan is better going forward than he is at defending. As for Brighton, that defeat to Everton should bring about a few changes. I was absolutely sure Yankube Minte was going to start against the Toffees after he played so well in that win against Manchester United, but he did not start, and after that loss to Everton, I do expect him to come in for this one. In terms of transfers, both Brighton and Nottingham Forest are being linked with strikers. Forest have been heavily linked with Cunha, which won't help draft managers in need of a forward, as he will already be taken. They've also had a bid rejected for Johan Wissa. Brighton, on the other hand, have been linked with a move for Stefanos Simas, who is a Greek striker. He is unlikely to join this month as he is on loan in Germany from PAOK. Evan Ferguson's future is also still in doubt at Brighton. He's been linked with a whole host of clubs. He could well be worth bringing in this week and holding in the hope he moves to another club in the top flight. He is also being linked with moves to Scotland and Germany, though. It's Bournemouth against Liverpool at the Vitality. Bournemouth are in a great moment right now, but their record against Liverpool is bad, real bad. They lost 3-0 earlier this season. They were beaten 4-0 at home last season, and it was only 3 seasons ago that they lost 9-0. Marcus Tavernier did make an impressive cameo in that win over Forest. He's likely to be free in a lot of leagues due to his recent injury problems, and he would be a good long-term signing given Bournemouth's run after Liverpool. It's actually such a good run that you have to think they have a really good chance of making the Champions League this season, because after Liverpool, it's Southampton, Wolves, Brighton, Spurs, Brentford and Ipswich, and that run just keeps going and going and going. Their remaining fixtures that are level 4 on the FPL fixture difficulty ticker take place in game weeks 35 and game weeks 37 when they go to Arsenal and Manchester City. All their other fixtures are a 3 or below. Most of them are a 2. So a sea of green for Bournemouth. So Tavernier would be a very wise investment, in my opinion. Iraola absolutely loves him. He will play regularly. It's also 4 clean sheets in 7 for the Cherries now, and 3 of those clean sheets have come at the Vitality. So keep an eye out for any Bournemouth defensive signings, because they are a bit short there given their injuries. And we've already spoken about a possible striker signing as well, with Evan Ferguson linked with a move to the club. It's Everton against Leicester, and this is a huge game down at the bottom. Another win for David Moyes here, and Everton will really start to pull away from that drop zone. Dominic Calvert-Lewin limped off injured in the win over Brighton, which means that Beto should be on everyone's radar this week. Moyes has no other striking options to choose from, and it is, of course, a double game week for the Toffees. Lindstrom started again as well in that game against Brighton. He managed an hour and remains a viable option given the double coming up. And Jake O'Brien started again at right back, so he seems to have cemented himself in that role ahead of Ashley Young. So if you want a route into their backline, he's the most likely one to be available on your waivers. As for Leicester, they beat a hapless Spurs this week, but I just have no faith in them repeating that feat this week, and I wouldn't go near any of their players who are likely to be available in your league.
If your football team had one option in their playbook, the results probably wouldn't be great. The same could be said for your investments. SIBO index options like SPX and XSP can help expand your investing strategies with cash settlement and potential tax advantages. If you're ready for a more dynamic game plan, head to betterwithoptions.com. SIBO, life is better with options. Your investments could be too. There are risks associated with SIBO company products. Review the disclosures and disclaimers at SIBO.com/US_disclaimers.
It's Ipswich against Southampton at Portman Road. Last season, Ipswich did the double over Southampton, beating them home and away. I can see both teams scoring here, and if you're in a big old league, I stand by Onuachu as an option. Fernandez might be worth a 1-week punt as well. As for Ipswich, Enciso got an assist off the bench at Anfield, and I would expect him to earn a start in this one. I don't think he's joined with a view to being a bit part player. I think he offers a good route into Ipswich's attack, and they are up against the worst defence in the league. Jaden Philogene is also worth a punt if you want to target Southampton, and let's be honest, why wouldn't you want to target Southampton? They stink. Newcastle take on Fulham at St James's Park. Fulham won 3-1 earlier this season, but that was the first time they'd beaten the Toon in 9 matches. Newcastle had won the previous 6. Sven Botman, he seems to be competing with Dan Burn right now for a starting spot. There's no doubt in my mind that Botman is a better player. There's no doubt in my mind that he will become a regular starter sooner rather than later, but he has only just returned from a long-term injury layoff. So I wouldn't blame you if you didn't want to risk that Eddie Howe roulette. After Fulham as well, Newcastle have a tough run. They've got City, Forest and Liverpool in their next 3. So those are games you can probably ditch your Newcastle defensive assets for and not worry too much about missing out on clean sheet points. As for Fulham, I thought Adama Traore would start against United and he didn't. I think that was probably a mistake, but who am I to say that to Marco Silva? I do think he'll start this one though. His pace could be key in pinning back the attacking threat of Lewis Hall, and although his returns are less than consistent, playing on the counter on a big pitch on the road has often brought the best out of him, so it wouldn't astonish me if he got something this weekend. Wolves take on Aston Villa in a Midlands derby on Saturday night. Jurgen Strand-Larsen limped off injured against Arsenal, so Wolves look very light up front. Hwang will more than likely replace him. He came on against Arsenal, so he'd be a decent route into that Wolves front line. Villa have only had 1 clean sheet in their last 8, and that was in a 1-0 home win over Southampton. Hwang did score against Villa at Molineux last season in a 1-1 draw, and Villa have just sold Diego Carlos and lost Tyrone Mings to injury, so they will be very, very vulnerable at the back. As for Villa, we spoke about Jacob Ramsey last week and he scored in that draw with West Ham. John Duran is being heavily linked with a move away from the club, and if that happens this week, Donyell Marlon will go up in the pecking order in those attacking areas. He's just joined from Dortmund. He's a fun player to watch, but he is not exactly prolific. He got just 3 goals in 14 Bundesliga games this season. He got 13 in 27 last season, 9 the season before that. So if he does get minutes, he will return. But as a heads up, he will not return that often. On Sunday, it's Brentford against Spurs. And unless Spurs get back some players and fast, they, like Leicester and like Southampton, have to be a team we should be targeting right now. When Leicester beat you at home, the alarm bells really should be ringing, and ringing loudly. Kevin Schade and Keane Lewis-Potter are both very good pickups for this week. Schade's goal against Palace was his 6th of the season. He's also got 4 assists. And Nathan Collins also got an assist at Selhurst Park. That's his 7th attacking return of the season from defence. And the way Spurs fail to defend set pieces on a regular basis, he has got to be worth a waiver this week. As for Spurs, you'd expect them to do some business this week given their injury crisis. Richarlison will lead the line again if he can stay fit, so if he's not been picked up, he's another great forward option if you're in need of a third striker. Beyond that, I would steer clear for now. It's Manchester United at home to Crystal Palace. United won at Fulham last time out, but they have lost 4 of their last 5 games at Old Trafford, and they've conceded 12 goals over that period, so I would not be investing in United defensive assets, despite the temptation to look at that Fulham game and think they've turned a corner. I think it's too early to say that. Roman Esse, who signed for Palace from Millwall last week, scored off the bench on his debut against Brentford, so he'll be on a few managers' radars this week. He's an attack-minded midfielder. He's being viewed as a long-term replacement for Michael Olise, but his track record in the Championship suggests he is not likely to bring you regular returns. He got 4 goals and an assist in 24 Championship appearances this season before joining the Eagles. Last season, he got 2 goals in 25 games, so feel free to take a gamble on him, but do not expect massive returns. It is Arsenal against Manchester City at the Emirates, and Omar Mamouche is going to be top of every single waiver pile this week after he impressed on his debut for Pep Guardiola's side. He's got 15 goals in 17 games prior to his move to Manchester, playing in the Bundesliga with Eintracht Frankfurt. He got 10 assists as well during that time, so staggering numbers when you look at it. And given the inconsistent performances from the likes of Savinho and Doku and Jack Grealish, he is going to be as close to nailed as you can possibly hope for. As for Arsenal, if that Lewis Skelly red card is upheld, and let's be honest, it wouldn't shock me if it was, Calafiori is likely to start on Sunday. He's a good route into Arsenal's backline if he's free, and there's still every chance Ethan Nwaneri will play on the right. He was taken off after that red card as Arsenal adapted their system against Wolves, but that means he is more rested than most of the Arsenal squad, half of which seem to drop to their knees in exhaustion at full time at Molineux. Arsenal are also rumoured to be working on a deal for a striker. All sorts of names have been linked, so watch this space on that one. On Monday night, it is Chelsea against West Ham. Chelsea taking on their former manager, Graham Potter, who seems to be turning things around slowly but surely at West Ham. West Ham are being heavily linked with a move for a striker as well. Andre Silva, the name most heavily linked. He's a Portuguese striker who plays in Germany for Leipzig. Another forward with a questionable goal-scoring record, I would say. Just 1 goal in 8 Bundesliga appearances this season. He got just 3 in 19 games the season before, and 4 in 31 games the season before that. So if West Ham do get their man, he will give them an option up front, but do not expect many goals. Lucas Paquetá, on the other hand, well, he's looked really good playing in a false 9 role for the Hammers of late, so he's a decent punt this week. The Hammers also have Leicester, Everton and Wolves in their next 6 after this game. Jared Bowen is expected to be fit for this one, so if anyone has been daft enough to drop him, now is the time to pick him up, if you haven't already. And Somerville may also be fit for this one, so if you do want an attacking option from West Ham, he could be your man. As for Chelsea, Noni Madueke seems to be back in favour again, so if a rival manager has binned him off, he is worth considering. He started the last 3 in a row now, and he's scored twice in that time. And defensively, Trevor Chalobah and Levi Colwill seem to be the preferred partnership for now, with Tosin Adarabioyo dropped to the bench for that defeat at City. As I mentioned earlier, Liverpool go to Everton on February the 12th, but we have already discussed their best options. However, given that game is so far off, do keep an eye out for news on Diego Jota's muscle injury. It is unlikely he will be available for this one, but if he has been dropped back into the waiver pile, he might be worth picking up now with a view to Gameweek 25 when Liverpool take on his old club, Wolves, at Anfield. Narrative klaxon. And that is it. Those are your waiver picks ahead of Gameweek 24. The waiver deadline this week is at 11 a.m. GMT on Friday, the 31st of January. The Gameweek deadline, and therefore the free agency deadline, is 24 hours later at 11 a.m. on Saturday, the 1st of February. And the Gameweek itself kicks off at 12:30 p.m. GMT with that game between Nottingham Forest and Brighton. If you haven't already, please do get subscribed to this podcast. Please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or write some really lovely words on Spotify telling us how great we are. Please do that. And make sure you're following us on X and Instagram as well. Our handle is at FPL Draft Zone on both. We are also on Blue Sky, where we post very intermittently. Our handle there is at fpldraftzone.bsky.social. But that is it for this week. Good luck ahead of Game Week 24. Good luck in the waivers. Good luck in free agency. And good luck masterminding the trade of the century when you get Dango Utara for a pair of used trainers and a chocolate bar. Until next time, it's bye for now.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.